Welcome viewers and career guidance counseling service. I'm Suman. I'm a senior counselor at ReachIvy. Education for the last 5 years. I have a Master of Education degree from Harvard University. Today we are going to talk about resumes. Now, resumes is one of the most important part of the application process, I think, but often ignored because we treat it as something that will happen on the side while we work on our main, say, essays or cover letters. Today, we're going to look at 10 do's and don'ts when you're trying to make an excellent resume. So without wasting time, I'm going to quickly jump into the presentation. Okay. The first point is listing all your accomplishments, education, and experiences. Don't. And the reason we say this is you don't want resume to be a list of everything that you've done or ever. And this might seem a little counterintuitive to a lot of our viewers, but bear with me. Take an example of a dinner party you're throwing and you're inviting special guests. You want to give people food to eat and you want to showcase your culinary expertise, but you don't want to make everything that you know how to cook. You don't want to confuse the party guests. You want to make sure they understand, or sorry, they taste what you know to cook well, but also that goes with the, say, party's mood or goes with the guests' taste buds. Similar way, a resume is supposed to capture everything that you've done with a caveat of whether it's relevant or whether it's valid for the purpose you're trying to solve. For example, a process that everybody undertakes while making the resume is reflecting in a chronological manner, kind of listing down everything that they've done, which is all right, which is fine because it helps us think to do it in chronological order. However, when you're then refining your resume, you want to look at various factors. Some of them I'll share with you. One could be, is this relevant to the application I'm making? For example, if you're applying to a business school, but you have purely technical coding experience or a project that did not involve leading people or a finance aspect, but you've literally just coded, is that relevant project to showcase in your resume? Similarly, if you're applying for a Master of Design course where you want to showcase your design skills or experiences working with various organizations based on design, you maybe don't want to talk about a small stint you had with law, or a small stint you had excuse me, a small stint you had with accountancy. You need to pick what goes on the resume based on how much value it's adding also. In the sense, if you've already showcased a project that you took where you led 15 people from diverse backgrounds, you maybe don't want to add another project where you led 5 people who are not as diverse, even though you did the project. So again, you want to keep only experiences and accomplishments that are relevant, that are adding value, and that serves the purpose of this application. Second, exaggerating numbers and outcomes. Don't. The first point obviously is being honest and integrity as a value. You are signing, most universities have a sign in the end where you say that everything that you've given as part of the application is true. Let's keep that aside for a moment. Let's keep the honest and integrity argument aside for a moment. The second reason that you don't want to do this is it's very hard to keep up the same lies across different application materials. you may think, what's the harm in making a 50 into 100 or making $1 million into $2 million? But trust me, the university admission systems and professional kind of career application systems are designed to test different aspects of you, and it's super hard to stick to a particular lie once you get into that trap. So again, do not exaggerate numbers and outcomes. Third, use context-specific words or jargons. Again, don't. The simple reason I can give for you is, don't assume that the reader is from the same field or is a subject matter expert of the field you are from. Mostly in business school resumes, there are people reading your profile at the admissions committee who are also reading profiles of people from a different background. So maybe a same person is reading your application and you may be from finance. Maybe the same person is also reading application of a person who's led an education NGO for 5 years. What that means is all applicants need to be conscious of or respectful of diversity or differences, not just of subject matter, but also countries, really. A lot of times, things we will say make only sense in a particular context. I'll give you an example. Say, often something that people are proud of is being promoted from one level to the other in the organization. So a common sentence to be found is, I was promoted from level 5 to level 6 within 6 months of joining, or within 6 months. Now, this sentence as itself doesn't hold value because you are not comparing it to something. You need to tell the reader whether 6 months is a good thing. Is the average in the company a year, and therefore 6 months is an achievement? Because the reader might as well assume that, oh, usually people take 3 months, but you took 6 months. So you want to be very careful of providing relevant comparisons and explaining what, say, a L5 or L6 even means. So again, don't use context-specific words or jargons, and be respectful of the reader. Fourth, have the same resume for all universities or job applications. We often tend to create this excellent resume after following all the do's and don'ts and researching stuff online, and then send it out to universities and job applications. Trust me, the universities or organizations can tell whether you've customized the particular resumes for them or not. And it shows that maybe you don't care enough and you're using a fixed resume for all your applications. Just to show more investment and care towards the particular program or job, you must try to change resumes for different universities or jobs. So again, don't have the same resume for all universities and job applications. Fifth, consistent font style, color, and formatting. Again, this goes without saying, it's a do. Now, often we get questions from students saying, okay, why a university shouldn't reject somebody based on inconsistency in font or color, which may be true. However, if you're using inconsistent font style, color, or formatting, it basically shows to the reader that, again, you don't care enough. You didn't go through the document enough number of times to make sure that the work is without errors. Few things that get missed very easily are timelines. Between, if you say 2017 to 18, between 2017 to 18, are you using a hyphen? Are you using space before the hyphen, space after the hyphen? It's something to be mindful of before submitting your resume, like towards when you're doing fine tuning of the resume. Another thing that gets missed often is font number, font size. Sometimes you're using 10 or 11. And then visibly, it's not visible, the difference, so you might miss it. So you have to be careful about that as well. Another thing which is super hard to spot is the very, very minute indentation from the left margin and the right margin. Again, when the person has 30 seconds to go through a resume, they will spot inconsistency in margins, and we don't want that to happen. So you want to be super careful of consistency in font style, color, and formatting. Sixth, customize the resume to university's location, currency, context, and specializations. Please do this. Now, I want to elaborate on this a little bit. Yes, you might have studied in India, or let's say you studied in France and you want to use, and you have worked in some other countries, and obviously the figures and data are available to you, and you probably think in that country's currency. However, when you're presenting to say a university or a organization your application, going that extra mile and converting everything to their context, to their currency, to what to their currency, basically shows them that you care and you are invested in them enough to put in that extra effort. The next thing that the next thing that falls into the customization is literally specialization. So for example, if you're applying to a university that specializes in its entrepreneurship set, for example, you want to kind of highlight that in your resume that if you've had any stint with entrepreneurship, or if you have attended conferences that promote that domain, you want to mention that, and you want to make sure that comes out easily, because the admissions committee is just tuned to that frequency. They are used to in the university, which again, admissions committee is a lot of time comprised of professors at the university or senior management, and they are used to the specialization, say entrepreneurship cell. And when they come across similar wording in your resume, it is going to strike a chord. Does that mean that does this count as pandering? It doesn't, because it shows that you will fit the university's kind of program. But does that mean you should lie? Of course you should. It just what I mean to say is, if you have something in your experience that advances your case with the university's context in terms of location, currency, and specializations, you must bring that out and make and almost help the reader in the very small time they're going to spend on your resume, and ring a few bells and make them excited to read the other parts of your application. So again, please do customize the resume to the university's location, currency, context, and specializations. This one's a tricky one. Should your resume be long? No. And the reason I say this is, imagine a resume to be a presentation of you, almost. Like it's a quick glance into who you are. And you don't want to give a person multiple pages to read. Often the university admissions committee or the jobs you're applying to have thousands of applications to process. You want to leave a lasting impression on them. You want to grab their attention. You want to excite them, but you want to do that as quickly as possible. Sometimes people say that resume is something that somebody will not spend more than 30 seconds on. Yeah, of course, they will spend more time on it if they're interviewing you, but initially it's just going to be a quick flash that attracts the person. If you are, this has a caveat, if you're applying for academic positions where a curriculum vitae is asked for, which basically means a collection of all your publications, all your work, all your teaching experience, that is a time that's okay. But overall, like let's take obviously very few people are applying for academic positions, and most people are applying for a master's degree or a business school degree or a job. For those purposes, you must not make a 4-page resume. I personally advocate a 1-page resume, because even if the university is not asked for a 1-page resume, it just shows that you are able to prioritize. Second, you are able to pitch yourself towards a program or an organization. And third, you're just a little more professional in terms of how respectful you are of who you're pitching to. And these reasons for me are enough to not make a large resume and stick to a page. So again, don't make a 4-page resume. 8. Now this is a gray area, using perfect grammar and sentence structures. A lot of times people would say, do not make any mistakes in your resume, or make sure your English is perfect. I argue that there are essays, there is interview to check your fluency in the language. Resume needs to be, again, as I said before, a quick presentation or glance into your life. You don't have to stick to perfect language structures or grammar. Having said that, you want to make it look deliberate and not make it look like mistakes. For example, if you have used conjunctions and you've used perfect sentence structures in 2 of your bullets, but then the third one is completely not in the right structure, that might point towards your weakness in the language. However, if you're using a consistent form where you're, say, skipping say the conjunction, or you're using commas and using semicolon to break different achievements, that's all right. And just make sure that it's consistent and it looks deliberate. You will receive mixed opinions on this, but this is our kind of take on whether you should use perfect grammar and sentence structures. Again, that's why I said maybe, not a do or don't, because if you decide to go either way, like for example, if you see full sentences are taking more than a page and only cutting that down will reduce it to 1 page, I would advocate for that. 9th point, Google and then follow a resume template. Now, maybe I'm not super against it, but you need to understand why I say this. Now, there is no fixed format for resume in the world. Of course, the recommended formats, we as ReachIvy, when we are editing resumes, we have a recommended format which we ask students to work with. The reason is often students struggle with, or professionals struggle with, identifying the structure of what they should put on the resume. And it's okay to then Google a template or follow an organization's template. But you, at the end of the day, have to make sure that the template serves your purpose, your case. By this, I mean, some resumes are heavy on education. Like if it's more towards an academic position, or if it's more towards a research position, you want to add sections like research projects. You want to add sections like academics you work with, or institutions you have partnered with. So that's what serves your purpose. Versus if you have just worked for the last 6 years in different organizations and you've been very into hardcore business, then there's a particular type of template that would serve your case. So you have to be super mindful of whether the template serves your purpose and pitches your case. Don't blindly follow a template, and if a friend of yours shows you a different form and then argue with them, no, this is incorrect, because honestly there is no right or wrong template for resume. So should you Google and then follow a resume template? Maybe. The last kind of, again, a gray area that I want to talk about is use of colors, symbols, and photos. Now, I'm going to say maybe, because it's very similar reasoning to the previous point. Colors, symbols, and photos are actually a distraction if it is a text-heavy resume. Now, bear with me. If you have written a lot about your business achievements, if you have written a lot about some quantitative figures, some other qualitative measures, using colors, various colors and photos might distract the person. However, if your background's more say a graphics oriented person, or somebody in a creative field, Use of colors and photos will actually make a case for your creativity, will make a case for your innovativeness. Unfortunately, when universities are processing or big organizations are processing resumes, they want to see a pretty old school, boring application, or pretty old school resume format. By boring and old school, I mean use of one or two colors to the max, highlighting using bold or italics, underlines, and basically a pleasant, clean resume. Having said that, it doesn't mean that there are no universities or organizations that would like some colors and symbols. And that's a risk often students, that's a direction often students do go. But I can confidently say mostly if you use like 5 different colors, if you use symbols, if you use logos, if you use photos of different avenues, it might not be serving the case of your application or your resume. So you want to be super careful of this. Um, we are going to do we are going to go into questions, but let's do a quick recap. I'm just going to take you through quickly all the points. First, don't list all your accomplishments, education, experiences. Second, don't exaggerate numbers and outcomes. Third, don't use context-specific words or jargons. Fourth, don't have the same resume for all universities or job applications. Fifth, do have consistency in font style, color, and formatting. Do customize the resume to university's location, currency, context, and specializations. 7. Don't make a 4-page resume. 8. Perfect grammar and sentence structures, maybe. Depends on if it's helping you or not. 9. Google and then follow a fixed resume template. Maybe. Depends on whether it's letting you have the sections that highlights your profile, that makes the case for you. And 10th, use colors and symbols and photos again, maybe. What we want to do is quickly take a look at the chat board and see if you guys have any questions for me. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a few questions that I often come across in the resumes. One thing people ask is whether they should have their high school listed in the education section. Now, my straight answer is if you're applying for a postgraduate degree or like an MBA or a master's degree or to graduate school, really, you don't need it. And the rationale is you have spent a lot of years after the high school experience while you're applying to postgrad, and a lot of it might not be relevant anymore. And the second thing is you should have done enough things between graduating high school and going to postgrad that adds value. And if you honestly haven't, like a lot of times we see extracurricular activities and leadership experiences which are focused during the high school experience. And if you've not done something, you really need to think how to make the profile better. And that's something that ReachIvy also helps you with. So yeah, don't, even if you've like, say for example, topped the board that you're studying in 10th grade, it's not going to add so much value because you're older, you've done much more in life, you've done undergrad, you've had job experiences. So that's something you want to keep away from. Let me look up another question. Another question that we get often is, should they add internships in work experience section, or should we even capture internships? Now, I have a maybe answer to that. It depends on what else have you done. A lot of times, students who are applying to say grad school right after undergrad, and they've not had full-time work experiences, and literally you've done internships. Internships are the only things that you've done. You definitely want to put internships, because that kind of showcases your work ethics, your professionalism, and stuff like that. However, we often also get applications, and if you can relate to it, you've done undergrad, you've done internships. After undergrad, you've had many, like 5-6 years of work experience, may or may not in the same companies that you interned with. Then you need to see whether the internship is going to add certain value to the application. For example, if you're doing an MBA application, but your work experience has been in the IT sector, then you want to see whether your internship was in the business sector, if or business or finance sector, because that will add a holistic picture to your application. If your internship was also in IT, and you have 6 years work ex in IT, you don't need to add the internship, because it doesn't add any value besides what the work ex already does. Another thing that people ask us often about is extracurricular activities, or like things that you do besides your academic work during undergrad, or even during professional experience. So it's important to understand that you don't want to list everything that you've done. It's great that you've done a lot of stuff, but you want to list stuff. You want to put stuff down which either maybe you've done for a long time, so that shows commitment, or it means something to you. A lot of times students have worked in a business domain applying for a business school, or worked, say, in education applying for an education degree. But they are, say, classically trained dancers. They have completed advanced level degrees and diplomas from reputed places in India. They've been doing it for 20 years of their life, and it's super important to them. Then you want to add it to the resume as a conversation piece, like during interviews, or showcase to the reader that you are able to commit to something for long term and chase goals, which is a valid skill no matter what field you're in, or no matter what domain you're applying to. Some things you want to avoid is ad hoc one-time activities. Like, for example, if you went to a village and for example, like helped some farmers with some loan issue with the banks, and you did it for like one day or like a week in your entire college experience, it's not a bad thing to put, but it doesn't add too much value, because maybe it's something you didn't do for a long time. However, if you are a development sector professional and this experience is something that yielded you to dedicate your life to the sector, maybe after that you founded a microfinance company for farmers, or you continued volunteering in that sector in a rural context, then definitely you want to put it, because it provides roots to your journey. Along with that, it also provides a base for rest of your experiences. So yeah, you want to take each of your extracurricular activity, or everything that you've done besides a job and university, and think about what it shows. Does it show commitment? Does it show a particular skill? And then based on that, you want to add it to your resume. All right, I think we are good. Thank you so much, audience, for joining us for the webinar. If you're watching it live or in the future, Feel free to send us questions to help@reachivy.com, or check out our website to learn about the different services that we provide. Thank you so much, and hope the webinar has been helpful for you.